This is a podcast for your ears only. I'm Judelyn Gibson of the Second Street Dreams Audio Network. There's a bit of a name change for this podcast. It's now Classical Music in Colors, plural. I'll explain just ahead. You're hearing the soundtrack from the recent masked ball from Castle of Our Skins in Boston. This took place earlier this month, despite a big federal funding cut. On this, the October 2025 edition of Segment 1 of Classical Music in Colors, there's some good news for classical music groups like Castle of Our Skins. They're trying to maintain after those cuts. I'm talking to the General Director of Castle of Our Skins out of Boston, Siad Wells.
So grateful that people came to our rescue.
So stay tuned for the first weekly edition of Classical Music in Colors.
The best way to fight breast cancer is to have a plan.
What's my plan?
I have a good plan.
Every month,
I
do a self-exam.
I do mine in the shower every month.
Then, once a year, I go see my nurse practitioner.
I see my nurse practitioner for a clinical exam. When it was time, I got started getting a mammogram every year.
I do my self-exam, my clinical exam with my nurse practitioner, and then...
Yeah, I get a mammogram every year.
Why? Why do I do it?
Because I want to fight.
I'm going to fight.
You have to fight.
And that's my fight plan. That's my fight plan, and I'm winning.
So let me explain the slight but mighty name change. The main station that originated my other podcast, Staccato, has canceled it. They're blaming those infamous government budget cuts. But before I say a final goodbye to Staccato, I have some thank yous to deliver. Thank you to all the people who said yes when I asked for an interview. I hope you continue to say yes for Classical Music in Colors. Thank you to all the people who liked listening to new albums by classical artists and finding out about magical events in the classical music sphere. Thank you to KMFA for giving me a nice long run. No hard feelings, really. Staccato will live on Radio Newark in Delaware. They are airing encore versions of it. With Staccato all but gone, I'm folding it into this podcast, which means I'll be covering classical artists of all the colors. Hence the name change to Classical Music in Colors. Now, moving on to the rest of the show. Everyone you know is trying to recover some of the funds taken away by our current administration. Some are doing better than others, but it looks like donors and new donors are stepping up. One example of this is the masked ball from Castle of Our Skins.
Imagine an art event where instead of looking at objects on walls, we looked at each other. Where instead of going to see art, we became it. This is the inspiration behind Masked Ball, a large-scale celebration featuring the diverse artistry of Boston's communities of color, free and family-friendly, at the Arnold Arboretum. RSVP at maskball.com.
It happened earlier this month, even though they, like so many other arts organizations, were blindsided by funding cuts. Here's what happened in May, as explained by Daniel Callahan and Ash Gordon of Castle of Our Skins.
We are co-producers of Masked Ball 2025, and we just wanted to really report back to you all about what's been going on.
On Friday, May 2nd, we got an email to say that $20,000 that had been recommended for the Masked Ball by the National Endowment for the Arts was withdrawn. So for our total budget, around $130,000, $20,000 that we had been planning for some years now that this project has been in development, is now gone.
They put the call out for financial help and were amazed by the response. Here's Siad Wells, the General Director of Castle of Our Skins.
This event costs around $150,000 to produce.
And prior to this year, you were getting some funds from where?
We were getting funds from the National Endowment for the Arts Grants for Art Projects program. So they have that particular grant program has supported various Castle of Ruskin's projects, and the latest one was supposed to be for Mask Ball.
Does the city of Boston or the state of Massachusetts kick anything in?
Yes, yes. So we are fortunate and privileged to live in a state that values, yes, that values art, and that centers and also is willing to support BIPOC artists. And so the state has contributed, and the city of Boston also contributes. And I think a large part of that is because the current mayor is also an artist. And so she sort of has that affinity for arts and is willing to put energy towards it. Michelle Wu.
So the assumption when you were making the plans was that the National Endowment for the Arts and were going to kick in.
Yes, yes.
Because you had already been approved. I think you'd already been approved for the money,
We had already,
right?
yes, we
grant.
had.
So what happened this year?
Well, the communication around this is really interesting. Working with federal entities is very challenging in some ways, and there's a lot of misunderstanding or just confusion about what it means to be recommended for an award versus what it means to receive an award. But in prior years, if your organization had been recommended to receive an award, that meant 99 times out of 99 times you would receive your money at some point. Usually the National Endowment for the Arts works on a reimbursement basis. So you do your project and you give them the receipts and then they send you the money, which is common. It's how things works. It's all good. And so you can kind of count on that the money you spent, you will receive back. Not an issue. But because our project hadn't taken place yet, and because technically we had been recommended to receive the award and it hadn't been, reimbursed to us or the money hadn't been given to us yet, then we were notified that we would not be receiving any money, any support, and that it was essentially rescinded.
What was the reaction in the offices of the Castle of Our Skins when you got that information?
Yeah, I think we are an organization that is very aware that our existence and our mission might not be aligned with the values of the current administration. And so in a lot of ways, it wasn't a shock, but it was very disappointing. I think we spent about 5 minutes in panic, and then we got together and we said, okay, what are we going to do? We were already planning to go to our community and ask for support in terms of a crowdfunding campaign, but we decided to increase the goal and to kind of shout it more loudly that we needed support. And so that was our response from it. We also have been really open and responsive to talking to people about it, like I'm talking to you about it, and been featured in other places. And that has been part of our strategy around, I think, the resilience of our organization. It is very disheartening to learn that you won't be receiving something that you've been promised, but we're going to keep going.
How did you go about trying to replace some of the funds?
So we sent several newsletters. I penned a letter to our community, simply laying it out for them as we received it, and then asking for their continued and in some ways increased support. And people were so responsive. I mean, there are people who have never given to us who gave. There are people who had already given to us this year and said, okay, well, I'm going to give to you again. So we didn't really have to ask too many times. We asked a few times, and the support rolled in, and we were able to surpass our goal and replace all of the funding that we were supposed to get from the NEA. So we got even a little more actually, which is great. And it really does show how important community is, and it shows how community is willing to show up for you in times of need.
Were you shocked, surprised that, people responded like they did?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I love coups and have for a long time, and I know that a lot of people do, but it was still shocking for people to just be so supportive, especially in a time when a lot of people were feeling the pinch, and not just the financial pinch, right? But sort of maybe this just so much happening at one time, and you're thinking, oh, are we going to be able to get to people or talk to them, or are we at the forefront of their minds? And we found out that the answer is yes, and that people are interested in supporting us, and they do really care about ensuring that not only basketball happens, but that we continue to exist.
What would you say to these groups who also lost their funding? What can you help them do so that
Yeah,
they can maintain?
I would say two things. The first one is to be honest with people. We were honest with our community and said that this was a really big deal, that our award was being rescinded, and that it was going to make producing the project more difficult without it. And my other thing would be to just ask people for their support. And their support doesn't have to be financial. Um, their support could be sharing it with someone else. Their support could be purchasing a ticket. Their support could be attending an event or sharing something on Facebook, right? Like there are so many different ways. Volunteering, though, that's also a big one. Yeah, and I think arts organizations, the smaller ones, we kind of struggle with volunteers, but we would love it if people came to volunteer. I would love it if people came to our office on Friday and volunteered and helped us do things. So or at events, So I think I would say to be honest with people and to ask for their support beyond financial support.
Siad Wells, the General Director of Castle of Our Skins. There are other stories of supporters and new donors stepping up to fill the gap as much as they can, like the fundraising group Give Butter. Way back in August, they held the 4th year of the campaign, Give Butter Gives Back for Black Philanthropy Month. Give Butter committed $10,000 to Black-led organizations. They invited nonprofits to submit their fundraising campaigns to be considered for a donation. This year, Give Butter says they raised a record-breaking amount of $572,000 from more than 1,900 individual donors. This is one of the recipients of some of that money.
Hi, my name is Magali Colliman Christopher. I'm a Haitian American, New York born actress, writer, and producing artistic director of Conchal Productions, Inc., a nonprofit organization that supports, develops, and presents new films and new plays written by Caribbean and Caribbean diaspora writers. Are you stumped? Are you confused by what I just said? Caribbean and Caribbean diaspora writers. 28 nations living all around the planet. We support their work. Not only do we develop new works in our writing community, we have our online writing community, but we also have reading series, and our goal is to produce new works as well. We also have a film festival, Conchal International Film Festival. We focus on strong, powerful films.
Now put this on your calendar. August is Black Philanthropy Month, and Give Butter gives. You can give or you can apply for some of those funds. Thank you for listening to this new phase of classical music in colors. In segments coming up in the weeks to come, I'll introduce you to Rosemary Saunders, a woman and Indiana Symphony Orchestra hid from view until now. There's a new album of the music composed by Black British composer Samuel Coleridge Taylor. We'll talk to the conductor of the National Philharmonic, Michael Repper. And interestingly enough, more African Americans are being appointed to high-level positions in the classical community. All those are coming up on segments of Classical Music in Colors in the weeks to come. You've been listening to segment 1 of the now weekly series, Classical Music in Colors. Find all the links on the Classical Music in Colors page on secondstreetdreams.com. I'm Judeland Gibson.